All right, guys. So while President Trump and the Republican Party is focused on gathering evidence and preparing for the upcoming legal battle in court in order to save President Trump's presidency, the Democrats, on the other hand, have turned their eyes to Georgia and the Senate race that's currently going on there, as there's going to be a runoff in January that could determine the balance of power in the Senate for a first term Joe Biden or a second term Donald Trump presidency. And this is very important to talk about, guys. So I just want everybody to be informed about what's going on and what the Democrats are doing and the resources they're putting into this race, because it is going to be important regardless of how the presidential race actually turns out. But before we get in that, my name is Greg Foreman and you're watching A Black Conservative Perspective. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share. A Black Conservative Perspective, aka a leftist worst nightmare. You can also follow me on Twitter at gforemanbcp. Let's get it. All right, guys. So the Democrats have now turned their eyes towards Georgia. And again, like I said before, the reason why is because it could possibly determine the balance of power in the Senate, which is going to be important for whoever wins presidency. Now, the Democrats have obviously accepted that Joe Biden is going to be the president, so they want to get Mitch McConnell out of the way so that they can change America, quote unquote. And this is not, I'm not saying this, this is what Chuck Schumer is saying.
Now we take Georgia, and then we change America.
All right, guys, so you hear that. They want to change America. Now that they apparently are done with the presidential election, they are looking to Georgia to change the country. They said it. So let's take a closer look in terms of what's going on in Georgia. And the article that I'm bringing up here is from the Daily Wire in regards to what's going on in Georgia. Georgia is headed for a recount in the presidential election since there are still some absentee, provisional, and overseas military ballots left to count. And Joe Biden holds a small 11,000 vote lead over President Donald Trump. Beyond the presidential election, both Senate elections in the Peach State have resulted in runoffs, meaning no candidate obtained 50% of the vote. The runoff elections will take place January 5th with early in-person voting beginning on December 14th. By the actual election date in January, Trump's litigation should have concluded and Americans should hopefully know who their president will be come January 20th, 2021. Even with legal challenges and some uncertainty, the media has called the election for Biden, even though Trump hasn't exhausted all his legal options. The White House won't be on the ticket, which could change races dramatically. Even with Trump and Biden at the top of the ticket, Senator David Perdue, who's a Republican in Georgia, nearly avoided a runoff by capturing 49.7% of the vote. His opponent, Jon Ossoff, previously ran for and lost a special election in 2017 for a congressional seat in one of the most expensive House races in history. Millions of dollars flow into the state from outside liberal groups, yet Ossoff still lost. Without Trump on the ballot, Ossoff will have a hard time running for election. He has spent the last 3 years basing his campaign on criticism of Trump. If Biden is indeed the next president of the United States, Ossoff won't have Trump to kick around. Georgia is also still pretty red, even with its status as a battleground in 2020. And Ossoff will have to distance himself from Planned Parenthood endorsement of him since abortion isn't that popular in the state. He also has to tread carefully when it comes to discussing police, as most of the state won't be accepting the defund the police message yet. Atlanta was one of the cities caught up in the protests and riots over police shootings. In short, Ossoff is at a severe disadvantage heading into the runoff, and liberal groups pouring millions into the race haven't ended well for them in 2020. As for the other race in Georgia, a special election for Senator Kelly Lafner to keep the seat. She was appointed to after Senator Johnny Isaacson resigned due to health issues. Democrats will also struggle. 20 people ran in the special election, yet in reality, only 3 candidates gained any traction. Of those 3, 2 were Republicans, meaning the Republican vote was largely split. Had Representative Doug Collins in Georgia not run, Lafner would have easily garnered 45% of the vote. Still not enough to avoid a runoff, but far more than Democrat candidate Reverend Raphael Warnock's 32.9%. Adding up the votes for each of the American candidates, Republicans came out slightly ahead with 49.3% of the vote to Democrats' 48.4%. The remaining votes went to independent candidates. All right. I think that's enough information there. So, this is what's happening, guys. Essentially, the Republicans have the advantage right now in Georgia, and they're the favorites to win it. However, the problem is that the Democrats really, really, really believe that they can flip Georgia into a blue state, a solid blue state. So listen to Stacey Abrams, who has spent a lot of time in Georgia trying to fight back against the establishment, the Republican establishment there, after she lost her election. I mean, obviously, she's still super salty about that. She's trying to fight back, and she spent a lot of time registering new voters and trying to get more Democratic turnout in the election. So listen to her talk about this strategy.
I want to push back against this anachronistic notion that we can't win in Georgia. In years past, when we've had runoff elections, whether it was the 92 election or the 2008 election, in both of those elections, we elected Democratic presidents. We elected Democratic presidents who had strong support in the U.S. Senate. This is the first time that we will have 3 things happen. One, we've got Jon Ossoff and Raphael Warnock at the top of these tickets working together to make certain that voters come back. Number 2, we will have the investment and the resources that have never followed our runoffs in Georgia for Democrats. And number 3, this is going to be the determining factor of whether we have access to health care and access to justice in the United States. Those are 2 issues that will make certain that people turn out.
So obviously she feels that Democrats over the last couple years have laid a foundation in Georgia that is going to help them significantly in this Senate race. And interesting enough, you have a lot of Democrats that are actually moving to Georgia to try to help out and try to get the ground game going there for this Senate race. And you also have Republicans, or so-called Republicans, aka the Lincoln Project, apparently is supporting the Democrats' efforts in Georgia in order to get rid of Mitch McConnell. Now, this is interesting because I only heard about the Lincoln Project up until recently. And a lot of their ads are just silly. And I understand how they've gained the traction they've gained. A lot of people have called them grifters. They're just grifting off the Never Trump, anti-Trump thing. But the way they sold themselves is that they're never Trump, but they're still Republicans. So if that's the case, then why are you trying to help the Democrats get rid of Mitch McConnell? Because to a lot of Republicans and the Democrats, Mitch McConnell stands in the way of the agenda of the Democrats, which may or may not be very, very, very progressive and far left. So the Lincoln Project supporting Biden and now supporting Democrats in the Senate is very interesting to me. It really begs the question of what is the actual motivations of these people behind this group? Because some people are saying they're just making money. But now that President Trump seems to, again, be in a position where he may not win this election, and it looks like Joe Biden is going to be the one to take office, what is the point of continuing the group? You would think that they would try to maintain what is left of the Republican Party and to try to come together and go in a certain direction. But that doesn't seem to be the case in terms of what they actually want to do. So I'm not sure what's up with the Lincoln Project. You guys can let me know what you guys think. Because I think that one thing that far left progressives and Trump supporters share is that hatred of the Lincoln Project and what they stand for. So you guys let me know about that. But this Senate race, while important, in my opinion, I think the Democrats are overblowing this. And the reason why I think they're overblowing it is because Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden actually have a history of working together. For whatever reason, people think that Mitch McConnell, by definition, because he's a Republican and he's known for being an obstructionist to the Democrats, is going to just block everything that Joe Biden does. And there's going to be at least 2 years of just gridlock in Congress where nothing gets done. But apparently that may not necessarily be the case, because the New York Times, and I understand it's the New York Times, guys, but the New York Times actually has a great article about the relationship between Mitch McConnell and Joe Biden, in which Mitch McConnell has said that when it comes to negotiating with the Democrats, he usually turns to Joe Biden when it's really time to get things done. When it's really time to talk, he turns to Joe Biden. Matter of fact, here's a quote from Mitch McConnell in regards to his relationship with Joe Biden. He doesn't waste time telling me why I'm wrong, Mr. McConnell said in a bipartisan parting tribute in 2016 as Mr. Biden presided over the Senate. He gets down to brass tacks and he keeps in sight the stakes. There's a reason get Joe on the phone is shorthand for time to get serious in my office. It is also worth noting that Mitch McConnell had attended Joe Biden's son's funeral, Beau Biden, back in 2015. And also, Joe Biden had spoke at Mitch McConnell's Government Affairs Center in Louisville as well. So it seems to me that they have a relationship in which they may actually be able to work together. Now, obviously, Mitch McConnell is not going to be on board with any far left policies or anything radical. But the idea that he may not be able to work with Joe Biden or that he's going to completely obstruct Joe Biden, in my opinion, just reading this article and reading about their relationship, I don't believe that to be the case. Now, obviously, you know, when it comes to the stimulus, Mitch McConnell has came out and said that he wants a stimulus. However, the stimulus is not going to be the $2 trillion, $3 trillion stimulus package that President Trump was negotiating with Nancy Pelosi and the House Democrats. Obviously, Mitch McConnell is not going to sign up for that. But would he move from his $500 billion targeted stimulus to maybe a $1 trillion stimulus or maybe a $1.5 trillion stimulus? Who knows? I think it's worth noting that the idea that Mitch McConnell is just going to destroy everything and that nothing's going to get done, I think is really misguided if you consider their past relationship and that they actually, I think, are friends, like legitimately friends, which, again, is good in politics when you're talking about trying to get stuff done. Now, I know a lot of people probably don't like hearing what I'm saying. You're probably saying, oh, you're assuming Joe Biden is going to be president. No, the only thing I'm doing is I'm speaking in a hypothetical if Joe Biden becomes president. And again, that's if the legal stuff going on with President Trump doesn't work out. I hope it works out, and I hope that ultimately it's President Trump in a Republican Senate. I hope that's how it goes. But at the end of the day, this is where we are, and this is kind of my analysis of the situation as the information stands right now. So we will see what happens with this. Georgia is going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see how the Senate shakes up. And it's going to be interesting to see how the Senate works with the president, regardless of who the president will be at the time. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.